welcome everybody. I'm Sally Rood from the National Governors Association Center for Best Practices, and I want to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon. This is the second webinar in a series of about at least four that we're going to be doing on travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation from the NGA Center for Best Practices. And the webinars are part of a joint project between our Workforce Development and Economic Policy team and our Outdoor Recreation Network. And so I'm going to introduce as our first welcomer here, Rachel Stevens Parker, who heads our Workforce Development and Economic Policy team. Rachel.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sally. And hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending where you're joining us from. It's a pleasure to have you all here with us. As Sally said, this is the second in a series of webinars that we're doing. And today we're going to be featuring innovative workforce development programs in the travel, tourism, outdoor recreation sector. So I'm excited to listen and learn along with all of you. Before we dive in, I will just give you a quick overview of NGA, who we are, what we do, for those of you who are new to us today. The National Governors Association is the only national nonpartisan organization representing the nation's governors. Through NGA, governors have a chance to exchange with their peers on real challenges and innovative solutions, and to speak with a collective voice on matters of national and even global policy where there are areas of bipartisan agreement. The NGA Center for Best Practices, which Sally mentioned in her opening, is where our teams sit, and the NGA Center serves as the only consulting and research firm focused on serving governors and their executive appointees across a number of policy areas. So as you can see here, we have a huge range of areas ranging from cybersecurity to infrastructure to K-12 education. And the two programs that are teaming up to present this webinar to you today are Energy and Environment team and our Workforce Development and Economic Policy team, which I have the pleasure of overseeing. The NGA Center provides a range of services and supports to our members. We provide customized technical assistance, customized research based on specific questions. We publish research and reports for the general public. We provide convenings, opportunities for folks to come together and learn from peers in one-off settings, and we provide extended peer learning engagements and longer-term cohorts. I'm going to ask for help. There we go. We got a mute. Thank you. As far as the networks we engage through these two teams I highlighted and the types of services we're providing, we do this for, on my team, governors, economic policy advisors, and workforce advisors, as well as appointed state leaders in workforce development and in economic development. So that includes your agencies and departments leading this work, as well as your state workforce development boards and other supportive organizations in these areas. We also have networks of advisors from our Energy and Environment team, including, critically, the Outdoor Recreation Learning Network members who lead and oversee work to expand access to outdoor recreation activities and to support that sector in a number of states across the country. And so with that, I'm happy to turn it over to my colleague, Jessica Rackley, who serves as the Program Director for Energy and the Environment at the NGA Center for Best Practices. Jessica, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel, and welcome to our second webinar in a series on innovative travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation projects. Just for a little bit of overview, I'm Jessica Rackley, the Environment and Energy Program Director at NGA within our Center for Best Practices, and have the pleasure of working on this project with Sally Rood, who's the Master of Ceremonies for this webinar, with Rachel, who you just heard from, and then a couple of other team members as well. So Bevan Bukeister, Evan Blankenberger from the NGA side. And then we've been working with Oregon State University's, their center, it's called CORE, Center for the Outdoor Recreation Economy, and Dr. Randy Rosenberger over there on this project. And so it's an EDA-funded research project. The next slide has a little bit of kind of overview. We're looking into the 185 different kind of projects that were funded by EDA under this travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation pot of funding. States, all the US states and territories received formula-based awards from EDA. And then there are a number of competitive-based awards as well. So we're looking into, what projects received this funding from EDA, what are kind of the metrics, what are kind of the most innovative kind of projects. And this webinar today, we're looking into have a variety of kind of goals and innovative practices we're looking into, such as economic shocks and kind of climate change resiliency, higher skilled, higher wage jobs, looking through projects that provide opportunities for underserved, disadvantaged populations, and then overall just kind of expand kind of the outdoor recreation and travel and tourism kind of economy within states and localities. This is a 2-year project. We're currently, I guess, probably like 9 months or so into the project. It will be completed in early fall of 2024. But currently we're just showcasing, highlighting a number of kind of innovative projects that we're seeing, and then we'll be collecting data starting in early kind of 2024 and writing a final kind of report on best practices that we've found from projects. And with that, I will now turn things over to Sally.
So thank you, Jessica. I'm pleased to be able to introduce our first speaker here. There I am. And it's a team of folks from West Virginia. Chelsea Ruby is the Cabinet Secretary for the West Virginia Tourism Office. And Ennis Smith is Director of Destination Development. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Sally, and thanks to the whole team for everything you do and for hosting today's webinar. We are thrilled to be a part of this. With me, I've got Ennis Smith, who is our Director of Destination Development, and we're here to talk about our non-competitive EDA project. So I'll just kind of walk you through it, but first want to give you just a little insight into what's going on in West Virginia. So West Virginia, under Governor Justice's leadership, tourism has had a huge turnaround in the state. The governor came in stating that tourism was going to be one of his top priorities 6 years ago, and has really held true to that promise. Since then, he's tripled our budget, elevated us to a cabinet level position. The list goes on, put $150 million in state parks. And I will tell you that in West Virginia right now, there is an incredible amount of excitement around tourism. I would say that it is one thing that everybody from top to bottom in state government, in county government, city government, and even at the national level, people are excited about for our state. But as we've seen this explosive growth in tourism, we've started to see real strain on our workforce. So when the EDA came out with the non-competitive funds and there was this formula-based money available, all the states started scrambling to say, what do we do with these funds? Many of the states use those funds for emergency advertising. Some of them use them for infrastructure. And we kind of went a different direction. We felt that we had a lot of support from our legislature and governor when it came to advertising funding coming out of the pandemic. But we were very concerned about the workforce challenges on the horizon and wanted to get ahead of them. So we dedicated our $5.1 million to create this program that we refer to as Tourism Works. So you can scan this QR code to learn more about it on our website, but I'll briefly go through it today. We've got 3 primary areas of focus. Workforce is the thing that I think all of us are scratching our head on right now. No one quite knows how to move forward with this. We all are facing similar challenges across the country. And so we're trying to take a really comprehensive approach. So our initiatives kind of focus in 3 areas, and we'll talk about all 3 of them. We're looking at training our teams, so actually looking at existing employees, educating our community, so really getting into the school system and making sure that we're starting this early, and then shaping our future. So if you don't mind going to the first slide, I'll start with the talent pipeline. So this is really thinking about how do we get kids interested in tourism early on. So we've all heard kids say they want to be doctors, nurses, astronauts, all these different things. But I've never heard any kid other than my own children say, I want to be in tourism when I grow up. And we need to do a better job of that. I hear people say all the time, those are low paying jobs. Those aren't the kind of jobs that we're trying to promote in the state or that my business is interested in. And that's not true. The research shows that in West Virginia, and these are really big numbers, for our small state of 1.8 million people. But the research is showing that we are going to have 21,000 annual openings over the next 4 years in West Virginia, with 10,000 of those being in management level positions with salaries approaching 60,000. So we have a really great need here, but we can't just worry about what we have today. We need to be thinking about what we're going to have in 10 years. So starting on the education side, the first thing that we've done, and I'm just thrilled to say this one's actually already in place. Sorry, if you can go back. The first one that we've done is started putting tourism into the curriculum. So this is looking at middle and high school students and making sure that every one of those kids, when they go through career exploration, they're being told about the opportunities in tourism. Our governor wanted this one done quickly, and I can tell you that as of about April, this was in place and all students in West Virginia were learning about this. The second thing that we're doing as a part of this talent pipeline development is we're putting grants out there for high school students. So this picture here, you may be wondering what this is. These giant swings, we've put them all over the state as photo ops. This one happens to have a picture of the governor's English bulldog, Baby Dog, who is the most famous thing in the state of West Virginia right now. But Baby Dog and millions of other people have been using these photo ops around the state. What is unique about this is we have high school students making them. So the high school students using their welding programs, their woodworking programs, their marketing programs, all different programs in the CTE system have come together to help us build these, design them, market them, and even install them in the ground. So this is one project that we've done through these grants. The grants are open and we're getting more high school students around the states to do similar projects or even to chip in on this project. But this hands-on experience has really been, I hate to sound cliche, but life-changing for some of these kids. I was meeting with one recently who told me that he can't wait to bring his kids and grandkids to see these swings some days. And that's something that it is hard to put into words, how important it is to get that type of experience to students. The other two things we're doing on the talent pipeline side is we are sub-granting with our community and technical system to implement new degree and certificate programs around the state. So to do this, we put out a survey to all of our West Virginia tourism industry members and found out where there were high concentrations of needs, and we're setting up very specialized programs. So we're modeling this after a similar thing that was done when Procter & Gamble located in West Virginia 4 or 5 years ago. They teamed up with one of our community and technical colleges to get a Procter & Gamble degree program. So that they worked with them on the curriculum. It creates a solid pipeline for them to always go to be hiring new people. We're looking at doing that around the state to make sure that as soon as kids come out of high school, they can go into these pipelines and they can get a job immediately. The last one, which ties into all of these things and kind of ties it together, is to create a pathway program. So we're working with the Department of Education to make sure that high school students have the ability when they're still in high school to start earning college credits towards these programs. So the state initially did this with the nursing programs. We developed a nursing pathway and it was really, really successful. So we've now turned it into a tourism pipeline as well. So on the next slide, I want to talk about existing workforce. So that kind of gave you an overview at a very high level of what we're doing to make sure that we get kids interested and we give them the opportunities early on. But I think to address the challenges we're seeing, we also have to work with our employers to make sure that their existing employees have the skills that they need. So rather than starting new programs, we've actually looked at 2 programs that are working well in the state and have added additional funds in them specifically for tourism. The first one is what we refer to as the Governor's Guaranteed Workforce. This is a program that allows employers to get up to $2,000 per year of training costs paid per employee. So $2,000 per employee per year. And they can bring in trainers. They can send people out for training. It is really allows them to take a specialized approach to whatever they need. So it might be a rafting company who needs to bring in safety instruction, or it might be a hotel that needs to bring in hospitality training. Either way, those are the types of programs and the types of things that we want to help them get so that they can make sure that their employees are properly skilled. The next one is a program called Learn and Earn. Again, we're borrowing from past success in the state. This is a program that has been very successfully used with Toyota Motor Manufacturing in Buffalo, West Virginia. Learn and Earn is a program where the state will actually pay part of the wages for students that are being hired while they're in school. So basically the way it works is if you're willing to take a student, we will pay half of their wages. So we're excited about this. This again allows employers to take existing folks, get them training they need, or to actually bring in new people and again, start developing that pipeline. Last but not least, we're taking a look at community development. I was in a gas station about 2 years ago now, and it was near the national park in West Virginia. And I heard someone ask the clerk at the gas station, the credit card machine wasn't working, so they'd gone in, and they said, "Can you tell me where to get a good breakfast?" And the person working the desk said, "Nope, no good restaurants around here." And I was just stunned. I mean, there were obviously great restaurants all around there. And it wasn't this person's fault, but it made me think we have to do more to educate communities and to educate people around the state to be able to talk to visitors, to be able to give directions, to be able to answer those types of questions and to have this hospitality mindset. Right now, we have trainings that are available to people in the industry, but we don't have an inclusive approach to looking outside of the industry. So what we're doing is we've teamed up with one of the community and technical colleges, again, through this grant, to fund a 1-hour college credit training program. It's online. People can take it at their own pace, at their own time. It will be free. And again, our hope on this is to get every gas station clerk, every hotel worker, every restaurant owner, all of these people to get their staff trained so that we are, as a whole, a more hospitable state. So we're excited about these initiatives. Again, we know this isn't going to happen overnight, but we wanted to look at it at every angle and see if we can make sure that we're really preparing for the future. So we'll defer to the next person, and then we're happy to take questions at the end. But if anyone wants more information about what we're doing, again, you can go to our website, wvtourism.com/tourismworks, or send either one of us an email, and we are more than happy to help. If anyone has ideas on how to do these, we're also happy to take those as well, because we are sort of building this airplane as it takes off. So thank you all for your time, and thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. That was super duper. Really appreciated hearing about West Virginia's really comprehensive program. So at this time, we don't have any questions in the Q&A or the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. We will have time at the end, as I said earlier, for questions and answers. And if you have questions in the meantime, please feel free to write them down and put them in one of our little boxes, and we'll get to them either after the presentation that they refer to or at the end. So now I'm privileged to be able to introduce Lynn Minges. Lynn is the President and CEO of the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association. And she is going to tell us about North Carolina's approach to workforce training.
Well, thank you all for spending some time with us this afternoon. I'm thrilled to share with you a little bit about the work that we're doing at the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association in partnership with the North Carolina Department of Commerce. With the Department of Commerce, they received the non-competitive tourism grant and really then partnered with 3 different entities to execute the program. We are just one of those entities. So there is a tourism development, outdoor recreation development part of the initiative. But we have partnered with the Department of Commerce in the form of a $1.1 million contract to provide hospitality training to the tourism industry, tourism and outdoor recreation industry. In our state, tourism is about a $33 billion industry. Prior to the pandemic, the hospitality industry employed about 11% of our state's workforce. So about 530,000 people worked in our industry. And on one single day, March 17th of 2020, we displaced about half of those workers, creating a fairly serious situation for the industry. Since that time, we've been rebuilding our workforce, but that comes at quite a cost to businesses who are not able to operate still at full capacity. They are incurring additional costs for training and onboarding people trying to recruit new people into the industry who have no experience. And so we've tried to step in with some meaningful hospitality training. Next slide. We set up as our target really 4 different categories of folks. First, as the previous speaker mentioned, we are targeting career and technical education programs in high schools all across North Carolina, offering them the opportunity to free of charge take industry recognized certifications and credentials. So these are students who may be learning career and technical education in their high schools, but they have an opportunity to become ServSafe certified or Guest Service Gold certified. These are nationally recognized credentials that are offered already through the National Restaurant Association and the American Hotel and Lodging Association's Ed Foundation. So we have high school students across the state taking these courses and credentials so that when they come out, they can walk up to an employer with a certification that these employers recognize. Second of all, we're doing the same thing with our post-secondary education programs in community colleges and college programs across our state, where students are studying tourism, culinary, hospitality, business management. They also have the opportunity to become credentialed and certified. Again, we're offering about 65 courses, and you see some of those listed on the screenshot here. We're also reaching out to new employees, people who've never worked in the industry, but might be good to attract to our industry. So workforce entry, first time they've ever had a job in the hospitality industry, or re-entry. So people who maybe left the industry, they went to work in other areas. We're hoping to lure them back with some enhanced training. And then professional development. One of the things we found from some survey and research we did early or in the immediate aftermath of the pandemic was that many people left the industry because they didn't see career opportunities. We're trying to do a better job of helping people understand that they may be a dishwasher today, may be working in the back of the house of a restaurant or hotel, but there are career pathways and they can take advantage of free training to allow them to progress through their field. So next slide. Some of the courses that we have already that have been really popular are a course called Certification in Hotel Industry Analytics. This is an online program where folks who currently work in hotels can become certified in hospitality analytics, which then makes them eligible to be a general manager of a hotel or work in management level arenas in the hospitality industry. There are things like Certified Food and Beverage Executive, online training, Certified Kitchen Cook, on and on, Certified Front Desk Representative. We're doing Guest Service Gold, which is the premier customer service training that's available in the hospitality industry today. To date, we have trained over 384 applicants. That is really going well. We have $1.1 million to expend on this training. So these are folks who are able to take this training at no cost, and the courses are being provided through this grant. Next slide. We're also able to track more about who's taking the training because we do require these employees when they go to the website, and there you see a QR code so you can take a screen grab of that and visit our site. We're requiring employees or individuals who are interested in taking the training to complete an application. So we're screening to make sure that they are either a North Carolina resident or they are working or plan to work in a North Carolina business. We're then able to track that by demographic, whether they're employed currently in the industry, not employed, looking for a job, number of years of experience, by age, ethnicity, and gender. And so all of that we're able to provide reporting back to our federal grantees. So the course is going well so far. The program's going well so far. We launched in February and are making great progress and look forward to continuing this to hopefully expand and enhance our workforce here in North Carolina. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lynn. Do we have any immediate questions, or do folks want to wait till we get to the Q&A at the end? Please feel free to jump right in if you have a question. You might want to raise your hand, or also you can write the question in the chat or the Q&A. I'm going to wait for 1 second to see if we get any response. So we do have a question in the chat, can people from outside of the state take the courses, Lynn?
No, we are limiting this to North Carolina residents or employees who are currently employed in a North Carolina business. We do have some folks who live across the state line, but maybe work in a business that's located in the state.
Okay, we'll be back by 4.
Somebody's talking there. The application process helps us screen for that. So before we allow somebody, give them the passcode to take the course, we're screening for demographics, where they live. We're also capturing, male, female, ethnicity, age group, whether you work in the industry or you're a new employee, et cetera, so that, we can use that for reporting. But no, this is exclusively for North Carolinians so that we keep this grant funding in our state.
Excellent. And I'm not seeing another question from North Carolina at this point, but if I could jump back to the West Virginia presentation. Hopefully we still have Chelsea and Ennis with us. So the question is, in West Virginia, what consultants, partners, etc., did they use for development and implementation of these programs? It seems like she's I'm just reading the question here, so pardon me. It seems like she's partnering local community colleges, etc., but they would need some type of education of tourism industry. And thanks for addressing this question. The question is from Beth Carmichael.
Sure. Yeah, we're bringing together. This is Ennis Smith. Nice to talk with everyone today. And thank you for having us. We are bringing together a lot of partnerships on this. So you're right. It is the community and technical college system as one of our main partners. And many of them have existing tourism and hospitality programs that they're building on through this. We also are partnering with Department of Education for one of our subgrants to get to that curriculum level, that part of accessing the tourism workforce and building it. And then we're partnering with the Department of Economic Development on workforce. So they too have some existing programs for tourism workforce we're building on. And a big part of what we've done so far is actually connecting folks who are in our tourism industry. So we've got them on our list for marketing assistance, for tax credits, for things we're already working with them on in the tourism realm. We're connecting those businesses then with the colleges and schools as part of this grant. We have a survey out there where we're getting folks on both of those sides to tell us they're interested in making those connections. And then we're trying to we have a staff member who is then directly connecting them by email and saying, hey, how can you help each other? You're in the same region. You're, a tourism business that's looking to host high school interns, for example. 40% of those in our survey who were surveyed said that they were willing to host paid high school interns at their tourism businesses. So just making those connections for folks that are already out there and wanting to help each other, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Ennis. And let me reintroduce you since you weren't kicking in earlier. Ennis Smith is Director of Destination Development in West Virginia. Thank you again, Ennis. So at this time, if we don't have any other interim questions, we'll skip to the next presentation and then come back to Q&A at the end. I'm happy to introduce Mike Thibodeau, who is President and CEO of Invest Hamilton County and also Vice President of Workforce Strategy for Hamilton County Tourism. And Mike, are you ready to go?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thanks so
absolutely.
much for joining us.
Yeah, I will say the universe is conspiring against me. My internet is now down for the next 2 hours, so I'm on my phone. So I appreciate everybody's patience if I'm a little choppy and disconnected, but hopefully it'll all go nice and smooth. We have a unique situation in Hamilton County, Indiana, which is just north of Indianapolis. We're one county to the north. We're a suburban community. Through the pandemic, we lost a really significant portion of our overall hospitality and tourism workforce. And as we looked at the rebound from the pandemic, there was a conscious decision to place a more concerted focus on this industry as it was more severely affected by the pandemic and from a workforce standpoint than any other community within with any other industry within Central Indiana. And at the time, Invest Hamilton County, which is the local economic development organization, we are still working out of the same building as our tourism bureau. And we decided to consciously kind of even start to share resources in a more intentional way and focus on workforce development programming. Another thing that makes us unique is that as Aledo, we pretty much exclusively focus on workforce development, quality of place, and people-focused programming. That goes all the way from managing the state and federal broadband funds flowing into the community to incorporating a new career and technical education district in coordination with our 6 school districts, all the way towards the other end of direct mental health education for our employers in coordination with our chambers of commerce and a number of other initiatives. But as we've thought about this space, we recognize that there was a lot of work to be done, and there were also a couple of key areas where we could make some great progress. So let's move forward one slide. So one of the key challenges we recognized with building solutions for our hospitality industry was that the market itself was not set up for them to, frankly, succeed in competition to their peers where they were trying to identify talent. And what I mean by this is, just as an example, our local industry saw a massive shift away from housekeeping occupations throughout the course of the pandemic. And at the end of the day, when we studied that and where those people were going, it was because the demand for residential housekeeping had increased by a very significant margin during that same time. And most of those individuals using job-to-job data and other migration platforms, we could see they were still cleaning. They were just cleaning homes instead of cleaning hotels. And frankly, when they moved over into cleaning homes, they no longer were working nights. They no longer were working weekends. They had active transportation assistance. And on average, they made a median earnings $4 to $6 an hour more per hour prior to gratuity and tips. So based on that, we said, hey, listen, like hotels, if you want these people to come back, you have to work very, very hard in order for them to do so. The next thing we did was we said, sorry, my sick 3-year-old is here to say hi, apparently. Thank you, sweetie. The next thing that we did was we looked at whether positions actually empowered career mobility and economic mobility. The first step there was recognizing front desk positions within our local hospitality industry actually have a significant opportunity for economic mobility, whether that's within the industry or also outside of the industry, because the soft skills that they represent are not something that's easily built within other entry-level types of employment opportunities like construction, manufacturing, and other sectors that are willing to hire people with a high school level of talent, but also no college degree or experience. And there's also just in general, as mentioned during other speakers, a lack of sustainable recruitment pathways interacting with the K-12 system and also other factors of that type. We can go forward one slide. So a big reason we're talking to you today is because we recognize within that there were significant opportunities for what sometimes is called non-traditional job seekers in the community. And for us, we identified 2 high opportunity pathways involving 1, individuals struggling with disabilities, and 2, individuals in reentry with an involvement in the criminal justice system. So for those individuals who have disabilities, we know that on average, their median pay that they were seeing through vocational rehabilitation and other related services was hovering at around $13 to $12 an hour, which made our employment opportunities locally very attractive and beneficial. We've now launched a training program that's being piloted at 1 hotel. We've seen 8 of 11 people that have completed it get permanently placed. And we're looking at opportunities to open up 2nd and 3rd cohorts within the next calendar year, along with a food service occupation cohort and a senior living one as well. We're using a peer-to-peer model that pairs these individuals together, and they slowly get more and more independent throughout the course of a 10-week training, and their credentials align with significant portions of the American Hotel Lodging and Education Institute curriculum, while also pairing with significant kind of more individualized and custom portions that we've developed in partnership with local disability providers. Within the reentry space, I believe we are one of the only places offering programs of this type within a county jail setting. So there are significant resources available for individuals who are currently in prisons throughout America to enter into this occupation, but also a myriad of other occupations. However, local correctional facilities have seen an increase in volume of individuals interacting with them, and they've also seen no proportionate increase in workforce resources or really quality of life resources compared to the more lengthy incarceration stays of our prison population. And so within this reentry environment, we're also conducting another 10-week training using AHLEI curriculum. We're doing guest service gold, we're doing certified front desk representative, along with kind of industry panels, mock interviews, resume writing, and one-on-one career coaching that we're now providing for all of these individuals engaged as well. That pairs very well with a recovery-oriented environment that exists within our jail. That's a therapeutic atmosphere meant to help people who are doing the right things and moving forward with the right decisions in their life gain access to counseling and other types of therapeutic services. So far, we've only had 9 individuals become eligible for placement. And we so far have been able to place 3 of those individuals into full-time employment. But overall, 100% of the people who have graduated the program, which is higher than the amount that have been available for placement, have said they are more likely to work within the hospitality industry. And their main piece of feedback they had was just that they want more. So we've really seen that this training means a lot to them. Their ability to collect to owners of local hotel groups, as well as general managers and people who have just even recently started careers, has been a thing that really showed them a lot of really great stuff. So actually, I just saw a question come through about the EDA funding. The EDA funding actually only paid for the research behind some of our community planning and job facing forward stuff. We have plans to have other sustainable funding to include to continue these programs for the foreseeable future. On the reentry standpoint, we're investing local CVB dollars as well as matching grants from philanthropy and other sources, including some of our ongoing economic development dollars. And then on the disability side, through pairing with the vocational rehabilitation system, we've identified pathways that to where even our participation in it fiscally only needs to cover 15 to 20% of total cost, and the rest is covered with existing state and federal resources. So we're really able to take a system that already works well, make it great, and help it work for these individuals. And so far in disability, we are going to be able to expand and scale while also having no effect on sustainability or ongoing financial need. And in reentry, we are going to need to continue to attract philanthropic investment. But as long as the recidivism outcomes and the cost savings to the county are significant enough as far as people coming back to jail, we believe we'll be able to continue to invest in these programs and scale as well for the foreseeable future. So we're very happy about the way we've been able to structure these, at least starting out very efficiently, and then also have them map forward, in a way that can also scale. That's I have one last slide of my information, but that's all I've got.
And thank you, Mike. Excellent. And thanks for jumping right into the question. Let me go ahead.
From the grantee and
Can I ask whoever's speaking to mute themselves? Let me offer that question as well to our other speakers. If you haven't anything you want to add to that. Lynn and Ennis or Chelsea.
And you're asking,
that was the question. Sorry, let me repeat. The question is, will your programs continue after the EDA funding expires? And then a sub question is, can you talk about how the EDA investment helped?
Yeah, from West Virginia's standpoint, our goal is that all these programs would continue after, after the EDA funding has run out. And the way that we're looking at that is, sort of a proof of concept model for each of these programs we're implementing, where we're showing, how important this tourism workforce training is going to be. And, as we get these programs off the ground and are able to collect metrics and show how the investment is paying off to build the tourism workforce, then we're hoping that, either the state or other funding sources will be able to come in and help us to continue each of those programs because they see the value of the investment. So the online programs are a good example of that, where, we only have so much funding to make it free for learners for a certain amount of time under the grant, but we're hoping that we'll find another funding source before that, that funding expires to continue it.
Excellent. And Lynn, if you are still here with us, please feel free to join in.
Okay, I'm here.
Great,
Definitely,
thank you.
we hope the program will continue. The funding to allow for free training will go away, obviously, when the funding goes away, but we expect this to last for some amount of time. The courses are not very expensive, and so we hope to train, as many people as possible over the next 2 years. After that, we think that this will, the program will help to raise awareness that the programs exist, the training exists. So college professors hopefully can then put it in their budget, CTE programs, some of these, Goodwill Industries, other nonprofits who are working with people to, prepare them for careers in the industry will become aware of the programs, and hopefully it will sustain going forward.
Thank you, Lynn. And if I could jump back to you in this new question, does the West Virginia program include businesses focused on outdoor rec? And what kind of help can those businesses get?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. So West Virginia outdoor recreation is one of the main drivers of our tourism industry in general. And I would say in terms of the marketing that we do as the State Department of Tourism, we're often highlighting and focusing on outdoor recreation to bring people here. And in terms of the workforce programs, we've constructed those programs so that they are broad enough that, hotels, restaurants, other parts of the tourism and hospitality sector can also access the program, but I think outdoor recreation providers is going to be they're going to be one of the main partner groups that end up accessing these programs. So for example, the Governor's Guaranteed Workforce Train Your Team program that Chelsea Secretary Ruby talked about, that program is going to be when we've already started to see inquiries coming in from whitewater rafting companies, from the ski industry and those businesses. So I think the customized training that's available through that program will be something that outdoor recreation providers will access for their staff. In terms of the curriculum, one of the things we're making sure to highlight at the middle and high school level is how you can work in outdoor recreation as part of the tourism industry. And that's something that's often really well received by the students. I believe one of the focus areas for the high school tourism curriculum is outdoor recreation and adventure tourism, I believe is how they've called it. And some of the pathway programs that we're developing into those certificate and college programs, which we haven't finalized those yet, but many of them are outdoor recreation focused too. So we're excited to see how that goes. And thank you for the question.
Well, thank you for the answer. Yeah, so let me open this up again to our audience, and feel free to chime in either verbally or with your question in the chat. These are 3 excellent state models, state and local models, of workforce in the travel and tourism arena. And this is our chance to ask them questions directly. So please feel free to chime in. And let me know if I missed any questions in the chat as well. Is there anything, having heard all three of our speakers make their presentations at this point, is there anything that any of our speakers would like to come back around, circle back to, any points or topics that you didn't bring up that may respond to some other speakers' presentations?
This is Lynn in North Carolina, not specifically to another speaker, but I will just add that in addition to this grant, we received a grant through the ARPA funds that were designated at the state level to develop and execute a $5 million recruitment campaign. And so we are partnering that initiative with this one. So in other words, we'll be in the marketplace, TV, radio, social media, blogs, influencers talking about career opportunities in the industry, encouraging people to consider careers in the industry, trying to debunk some of the myths about the industry. And in that campaign, they'll land on a website to learn more about career opportunities, and this training will be offered on that platform. So there will be about $5 million helping to, to dovetail and try to introduce people to not only careers, but opportunities for certifications and training.
Excellent. And Mike, I don't know if your audio has held out this long.
I'm still here.
Oh, great. Thank you. And I hope your daughter's doing okay. Is there anything that you wanted to add in terms of the focus between outdoor rec and tourism in general? And how you're
So one thing we found with outdoor rec, in particular with like our parks departments, is the seasonality of their workforce is in direct conflict with the integrated employment values that the disability placement infrastructure has. And so our ability to permanently place individuals is largely dependent upon them adapting and becoming a little less seasonal with their employment. So that's been just a give and take listening session and engagement session. And I would say within all of this, that's what a lot of it has been for us, is just talking with employers about why they're struggling, talking to them about culture, talking to them about values, and all of that has kind of been able to make a big difference.
Understood. Any other folks on the call that want to chime in with a question? It's a quiet audience today.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I could add, Lynn mentioned in one of her recent comments about sort of the stereotypes, and I think several people have mentioned that, stereotypes about working in the tourism industry and what those jobs look like. And, one of the ways that we have tried to address that, and I'd be interested to hear, others' thoughts on this, is making some of our outreach directly to guidance counselors. So we often think about teachers, but I think that, at least what we've learned in West Virginia with the Department of Education and how everything is set up, guidance counselors and administrators working with them are often the ones deciding, are we going to implement the tourism program of study at our high school level? And are we going to actually steer students into some of these pathway programs that we've created? So I think, that's an audience that we didn't really realize we needed to identify and focus on until we started this work. And I'd be interested to see if the other speakers have advice on how to reach guidance counselors better as well.
I'd be curious to know, am I remembering correctly that you also added a pilot program for that audience, the guidance counselors in West Virginia?
So we're trying to work with them. We've had several meetings with them, and we have a pilot program, pilot pathway program at the high school level that we've already started on. Yes. And so, several of these meetings that we've had have involved those guidance counselors at the table from across the state. And so, yeah, we're hoping to build on that as we go forward.
I will say for us,
Go
one
ahead,
of the things
Mike.
that's been, I was going to say from a guidance counselor standpoint, we facilitate actually like non-hospitality focused partnerships with schools on career development and externships and counselor and teacher experiences. And so we've been able to even engage counselors in paid exposure experiences and education experiences that include multiple industries, but making sure that when you do, this is one of them, because in some states, that's just not the case. And so it helps them get more information, especially when you can attach it to a summer paid externship stipend or another experience like that where they get some direct exposure.
And similarly, in North Carolina, we do work very closely with our Department of Public Instruction on career and technical education programs, somewhat with guidance counselors, though we haven't had a concerted effort around that specifically. But we are just trying in the public domain to talk about career opportunities and wages, that, for example, and I don't say this too publicly, but, when we look at wages of a restaurant or hotel manager versus, public school teacher, police officer, they're about in the same range, $60,000 a year. So, the notion that these aren't high paying jobs is just really a myth. And so anyway, we can try to dispel that. The other interesting thing is that to work in the industry, you can begin at the entry level and be on a management level in a pretty short period of time. And that's the other thing we need to talk about. And so we're going to do a lot of that through social media, through capturing first-person testimonials from people who have found careers in the industry, and hope that peer-to-peer influence goes a long way. Another audience I think we're going to have to reach are parents as they are advising their, kids about career opportunities. I think someone mentioned that earlier as well.
Sounds good. And in terms of, workforce programs and workforce data, the typical data that they collect, are any of you going to be doing any different kind of data collection or metrics work to document what you're doing on these projects you're sharing with us here today?
We are, before we even offer the training, we capture information on who's requesting the training. So, we're capturing a lot of demographic information, age, number of years they've worked in the industry, what positions they currently hold, what they aspire to. And it's only after they complete all those fields of application, it's only at that point they're able to take the training. So we're collecting that up front. And then we also are tracking on the back end whether they actually took the course and received the certification. We're also using Lightcast data to track actual employment in the industry to see if we're moving the needle from a just employment standpoint. We hope that we'll see some good progress there.
Yeah, I would echo what Lynn said too, in terms of we're going to be collecting that data, and it's when folks are signing up, just like in your case, when they're signing up either for the online course, enrolling in the programs of study, either at the college or high school level, or enrolling in those governor's guaranteed workforce programs at the professional development level, for example, and just making sure we get all that up front and then try to circle back with them and get some outcomes type data there at the end as well after they've completed the trainings.
Excellent. We have another question here in the chat. Is there any specific outreach to disadvantaged populations? I'll open that up to everybody.
I think that's really difficult. We're trying to make sure that we cast a broad net. We have, both urban and rural areas of the state, 100 counties. Within those counties, certainly some people are disadvantaged and others aren't. So we're just really trying to make sure we're casting a broad net statewide, and also working with the public school system, the community colleges. I feel like we're reaching those audiences, but we don't have a specific, strategic way we're going after just disadvantaged populations.
Yeah, I would say for West Virginia, when you look at like the ARC's their map of distressed counties, most of our counties are in that. So in terms of, most of the work that we're going to be doing through all these programs are going to be reaching those disadvantaged populations in terms of economic mobility at least. And so I think, that will be something, I think as we go along, we're going to have to continue to look at the data and monitor it and see, are we really getting applications for these training programs from all of the counties? Are there areas that we're leaving out? And I think that's going to be kind of an ongoing process. Like as Lynn said too, to echo her again, we're casting a wide net, but I think we're going to have to monitor the data as we go along to make sure that net is reaching everyone.
One of the things we found in some of the research that we did early on is that reaching, for example, the Hispanic community, just to specifically mention one, is that community tends not to use the internet for searching for jobs and opportunities. And so we're trying to find some different approaches, for example, attending community events where we could target those audiences. Some of our grant funding is, targeting just not only distress, but minorities. So, we're trying just different approaches, and we can't just do it all online. We can't do it all on TV, can't just do it through social media. We're going to have to physically go to community centers to talk about career opportunities and to offer the training. So that would be a part of our mix, just to make sure we're not leaving anybody out.
Right. And I've heard similar kinds of suggestions about using different outreach mechanisms to reach tribal communities as well. Well, we are almost out of time, and want to take this opportunity to thank our wonderful speakers. Chelsea Ruby, Cabinet Secretary in West Virginia Tourism Office. Inna Smith, who's been answering questions from West Virginia, who's Director of Destination Development. Lynn Minges, again, who's President and CEO of the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association Foundation. And Mike Thibodeau, President and CEO. Well, Mike has several titles. I'm going to read one of them. President and CEO of the Economic Development Corporation for Hamilton County, Indiana. We really appreciate your sharing your programs with everybody today. And the slide that's on the screen at the moment lists some contact information if you want to later reach out with any additional questions to any of our NGA staff. We have the email addresses there for Rachel Stevens Parker, me, Jessica Rackley, and Evan Blankenberger. So really nice to have everybody join us today. Appreciate it. And looking forward to letting you know when the third webinar in this series will be. We haven't announced the date yet, but we're working on that now. And so you'll be hearing from us soon about additional webinars on travel tourism and outdoor recreation. If anybody has any last minute thoughts or questions, now's the time to chime in. Otherwise, this webinar, just to remind you, will be posted on the National Governors Association website very shortly. And happy to have you share that with the recording and the slides with others as well. Thank you.